Here we are at the Dodge Dakota. Gonna check the coolant level. So how do you do that? I'm gonna show you how. Plus, I have some really good pointers and tips for those who, even if you have done this before, you know what you're doing, I still have some points and tips that might be useful. So anyways, let's get going. Now this one is a 2003, but you know, they're all pretty much the same. Almost all vehicles, well, not where you open your hood, but you know, the process is about the same. So let's get the hood open and I'll tell you the important things. Oh, before I go out there, go around to the front here. Do this when your engine is cold. It's very important for safety reasons. If you really know what you're doing, you can do things differently, but for the average person, this is a safe way. Make sure the engine is cold. But it doesn't have to be this cold. But, you know, it could be cold. So there you go. And let's get this open. Okay, so if you're not familiar with this particular truck, of course, here's the radiator cap here, right at the front. One thing you can do if your vehicle has been running, if you take your hand and press on some of the hoses, you can tell if there's pressure in there, so be careful. Normally you don't even have to take off the cap because all we're going to do is fill it from here. This is the reservoir. And most vehicles, not all, so make sure you check. It should not be under pressure. It would be abnormal to have pressure in here. So that's where we're going to add. And just so you know, remember, this one says engine coolant. And then you have another one that's yellow also, but that's for your windshield washer. You probably don't want to put your antifreeze in there, or your coolant. So anyways, let's take a look in here. So the vehicle is cold. Let me get this lid off. I have to be careful because it is cold here and you can break things easily. Now most vehicles, some are clear, you can actually see, but this one, it has a stick on it. And so this is I think part of the interesting part here is that this vehicle is totally cold. So you would expect it, you wouldn't expect the fluid level to be really high or anything, because if it's cold, the fluid hasn't expanded, so it gets, this reservoir is what it is. If there's fluid in there, and once things cool off, if it needs more fluid, well, I mean, as it cools off, it will draw fluid out of the reservoir and into the system. And then when it gets really hot, it heats up and it pushes any excess, because it expands, right? So it pushes the excess fluid into the reservoir. So in this case, I mean, there's nothing even in the reservoir, which that's a reason for some concern, because it's probably low. I'm gonna tell you right now. So I'll just put this back in here so I don't lose it. All right. Okay, as I was saying, normally you want to do all this stuff when the engine is cool. It can be a little bit warm, but we want to do some experimenting though, because I know that this is low, but we also know that when the system heats up, everything expands, so it should push some fluid into here. So I want to find out how low this really is. When this thing heats up, I want to see if there's any fluid in here, because when you go to fill it up, that would actually be beneficial, because when everything's hot, as long as you're not opening this cap and you check your fluid when it's hot or heated up, then if there is enough fluid in there, you'll see a level on this dipstick. So I know that it's got to be kind of low because it's totally dry. But I want to see, when it heats up, is there going to be anything in this reservoir? And if there's nothing in there, then for sure I'm going to fill this up with some antifreeze, at least right up to the full mark, and then we'll go through the process. We'll let the truck heat up again and then let it cool off, and as it cools off it will contract and it will draw fluid out of the reservoir back into the system here. So this might be it could be a 2-step or 3-step process just to do it this way. This is just one way to do it. There's other ways to do it. I know there's guys out there that they know, but this is the safe way. We're just going to deal with the reservoir tank and filling it up without having to take off this cap. Okay, so I'm gonna, again, let's go in and I'll talk about antifreeze for a second. Okay, let's talk about antifreeze. Now, always check your owner's manual. Find out what type is approved for your vehicle, especially if there's warranty issues. So, check your owner's manual. I know this will work fine in my vehicle, and you're saying, well, what's the big deal? You just buy it and pour it in, right? Well, there's two different kinds of antifreeze. You can get stuff that's pre-mixed. It's at a 50-50 mixture of antifreeze and water. Or else what I do is I buy the concentrated stuff because you can make twice as much, and it's cheaper. Basically, it's almost half the price in the end. And there's a few things to pay attention to. Now, antifreeze, of course, in Canada here, it's to prevent, your system from freezing when it's cold, because it does get cold here. But there's also other things in here that helps prevent corrosion and stuff. So any vehicle, no matter where you live, you're going to need to put some proper antifreeze in there, not just plain old water. With this, I live sort of in southern Canada, so it doesn't get super cold here, so absolutely no trouble. I'm going to be mixing this at 50-50, but if you live, and I have lived where it is cold, and the max you can do this is what they say is maximum 70% antifreeze and 30% water. So you'd have to do some calculations, but ours is really easy. It's just 50-50. So what I'm going to do, this holds 3.78 liters. And so just divide that by 2, and you get 1.89 liters. So that's 1,890 milliliters. So I'm going to measure out 1,890, and then I'm going to pour that into here. Then I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to measure out that amount of water, pour it into there, and then what's left in here also. So I'll have half in here, so I'll fill this up also. So let's just get moving here. So here's our first. This only holds 1,000 mils, which, just looking on here, if you're in the States, I know a lot of people from the States watch my videos, so that's like, I think 32 ounces. Yep, 32 ounces or 1,000 mils, around there. I couldn't find a proper funnel. Hopefully this one's gonna work. So there goes my first. So there's the first 1,000. Now we need 890. I mean, you wouldn't have to be super precise with this. Normally I'd probably just eyeball this, but for the video, we'll do it proper. Okay, so this is basically, it's divided in two now. Should have about the same amount in each one. Yeah, it's close. So now, this is important, use distilled water. If you use tap water, or water out of your well especially, there's a lot of impurities in there, and that's going to cause reactions with metal in your system. Probably going to lead to, more of a chance for corrosion and things getting plugged up. So use distilled water. So there. I'll put in another 890. And if you've done this correctly, in the end, you should have basically 2 jugs. Don't be drinking this stuff. Animals are attracted to this, so it's very bad for them because they think it's tasty. So there we go. I now have 2 jugs that I can use. So I'm gonna use this, try to use this one up first. I don't like having things around in jugs that it shouldn't be in. And you have to be careful. Anytime you put a product in something else that it's not meant to be in, you have to keep it away from, you know, the kids, and, you know, maybe in a cabinet that has a lock on it. Yeah, I don't really recommend putting things in jugs that weren't designed for the product, but, you know, for this I just wanted to show you mixing it, how easy it is. And so sometimes you have to do what you have to do. I'll make sure that's mixed up good. Oh, P.S. Since this is now pre-mixed, right? So you want to mark that on the jug. I put it right on the top and say it's already, just mark it, mixed. So it's 50-50. Important to do because, you know, you'll get away with it in your warmer climate, but up here, if you think this was just concentrated and you remixed it again, yeah, you're gonna run into trouble. It's gonna freeze. I drive about 20 minutes. It's all heated up. So let's check this. And that's just ice falling off of my hood. Anyways, yeah, as I suspected, there's nothing in there yet. So it's a little bit concerning. So at this point, what you should be doing or thinking about, maybe there's some leaks in your system. So check underneath. See if it's leaking anything. Also, you can smell it if it's leaking. It has a distinct smell. It's not a bad smell or anything, but and the other thing is whether it's leaking or when you're filling it up, and if you spill any antifreeze, you need to like clean that up. Get a hose or something, dilute it down or soak it up, because it's very poisonous to your pets. If you have any pets, they'll come out and they like it because it's sweet tasting, nice smelling stuff, and they yeah, that will be the end of them. So make sure you don't make a big mess, and if you do, clean it up. We'll get this filled up, and then I'm going to get the vehicle heated up again, and it's, you know, here it's going to cool off pretty quick, so then I'll let it sit for about half an hour, and it will draw fluid out of the reservoir into the system. And then also, you know, there's no leaks. I can't find any leaks right now, but I'm still questioning like why it's low. There's many reasons. Some are an issue, some are not. But yeah, after we get this all filled up, we'll get it heated up again and make sure there's no leaks somewhere that present themselves after. So get my little funnel in there. I have no idea how much this thing actually holds, this reservoir, but we're going to find out. Okay, right now it's just at the very bottom of the stick there. So we're going to put more in. Okay, it's right at the full, a little bit above. Wow, I don't know if you can hear that airplane going over, but anyways, it is a bit above the full, but we know this thing's probably pretty empty, so I'm not too concerned. Put that in, let's get this cap on, and all I'm going to do now, I'm going to start up the vehicle, and we'll let that run for, you know, 10 minutes or whatever it takes to get the temperature up on the gauge in the truck, and then we'll check it. Okay, I'm back. It's cooled off now. Forgot to mention, I added in probably about, this is a 4-liter jug, so probably about at least 1.5 liters, I'm guessing I put in there. And you're gonna have to monitor this over a couple days. Now, just gonna take this out and wipe this off. Now, when I initially filled it up, it was well above the full line, and it has gone down now. It's down just actually right at the little bit above the top, I guess, mark there. But I'll have to look on the video, but I think it was well up here, so it has pulled some fluid into the system, and I suspect I just need to drive a little bit more, get it heated up a few more times. There's probably some air in the system. It will push that air out. And go from there. So I think we're good for now. Check it in a few days after you've been driving for a while. And again, look for leaks and stuff, and you should be good to go. That's pretty much all there is to it. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. Like, subscribe, come back for more. This is the easy way to do your to fill this up, by the way, and not necessarily the only way, of course. So take care.